How's everybody been doing? So got a few things to talk about today. First, I want to give a channel shout out, and my channel shout out is for Jeff over at Sports Card Connections. And Jeff has not really done a whole lot of videos, and he recently dropped his first one in a pretty long time. That was very interesting. I just got done watching it. He basically gave a pretty broad introduction to Calby cards, Calby Japanese cards, and showed uh, a range of things from Calby. For me, it was interesting to see the albums because I actually don't have any of the official Calby baseball albums that they used to come out with these sets. So yeah, they used to, put out albums that you could put your cards in. So it was cool to see those. And it sounds like he's going to do a Calby series, which I'm really looking forward to. So he's going to go through year by year and kind of talk about each year and then maybe show some examples from each set and things like that. So, yeah, Sports Card Connections. I'll put the link to the channel in the doohickey below. So next, I'm gonna talk about. You can see I'm already the summer heat. I can't even think straight. I actually went to a few weeks ago, and this was a few weeks ago, as you might know, I haven't done a video in a while, so this was a few weeks ago. I went to my very first card show, sports card show, here in Tokyo. So impressions, it was not the greatest, to be honest. Not trying to be a hater or anything. I was happy to be at a card show and see people there and things like that. It was pretty small. I want to say there was maybe 15 tables or something like that, 10, 12, 15 tables. And most of the stuff was modern, but not just modern. There was a heavy emphasis on autos and relics. There was a lot of tables that had a bunch of modern autos and relics, mainly MPB, mainly Japanese baseball and things like that. There were a couple tables that did have vintage stuff that I checked out. And I didn't leave the show empty handed. Overall, admittedly, to be honest, I was like pretty disappointed with the show. Um, but I didn't leave empty handed. In fact, I got a pretty nice pickup. I got this 1974 Calbee Series 1 number 16 of Isao Shibata for my 74 Series 1 run. So that was great. And this one's beat. It was not expensive by any stretch. I think I paid 500 yen for this, so about $5. Um, and normally I have pretty low tolerance for paper loss. Up here, it looks like maybe it was taped down into an album or something, and then it was peeled off. But you don't really. This card isn't too terribly common. I don't really see this one for sale online much if I ever have. So it's fairly scarce, and I need it for my run and things like that. So I was then the price was right. So I was definitely willing to overlook that. So glad I got this one for my run. Like I said, the show, if you're if I were really into modern autos and relics of MPB, it would have been a pretty neat show. But for what I was looking for, it wasn't really for me and it was small. But like I said, I did get that pickup, so that's pretty awesome. And then finally, I want to tell you a baseball story that is a little sad but interesting. And it has to do with this gentleman. So this is actually another 74 Series 1 Calby in my run. This is card number 47. And this is of Takashi Arakawa for the Yakult Swallows. And Takashi Arakawa was actually born Takashi Dezawa. He was born Takashi Dezawa in Nagano. And Takashi was a prodigious youth athlete. He excelled in several sports, and he also excelled academically. And as the story goes, one day, Takashi was noticed by a gentleman by the name of Hiroshi Arakawa. And Hiroshi Arakawa was at the time the hitting coach for the Yomiuri Giants. And Hiroshi noticed Takashi and was immediately struck by him, struck by his game, watching him play. He was basically like, that kid will be a pro someday, and wanted to take him under his wing. And what happened was, oh, by the way, Hiroshi Arakawa, if you didn't know, like I said, he's the Giants hitting coach. And he is actually the man responsible for cultivating Sadaharu Oh's flamingo stance. Prominent hitting coach in MPB, the Giants hitting coach, instrumental in Sadaharu Oh's development as a hitter. So this gentleman was so struck by young at the time Takashi Dezawa that he actually approached Takashi's parents and essentially convinced them to let him adopt their son and take him under his wing and make him into a baseball player, develop him as a baseball player. And I don't know all the details of this adoption, but Takashi was straight up adopted by Arakawa, by Hiroshi Arakawa, and took on his name, Takashi, that's his former name, Takashi Arakawa. And I don't know the details of this. Of course, it sounds like pretty crazy, right? Like they gave their son up for adoption to this guy. It needs to be said, well, it doesn't need to be said, but it should be said that Japan kind of, at least historically, has something of like an adoption culture, where it was, at least at a time, common for families to adopt adult men into their family. But this was usually done by the wealthy and the nobility, the aristocracy, to solidify their line and sort of ensure their family's fortune and lineage and things like that. So it wasn't usually something that the common people did as much. So yeah, there is kind of that adoption culture in Japan. There's an element to it, but this is still, to me, it was like very kind of interesting. And I didn't look into it in detail, but I wonder if even like some money changed hands or what. But anyway, I guess I digress. The Dezawas were nobodies, and Hiroshi Arakawa was a somebody who took a liking to their son. So maybe they thought it was quite an honor, or I don't know. Anyway. So Arakawa, now the elder Arakawa, was proven right. Takashi emerged as a top collegiate prospect out of Waseda University, and he was going to go number 1 overall. But then some controversy started because Takashi here, basically before the draft, he publicly declared that he would not sign with any team other than his adoptive father's Yomiuri Giants, where he was the hitting coach, right? So Takashi here said that he would not sign with any other team. Don't draft me. I want to play for the Giants. So, of course, this caused some rub people the wrong way. This was considered, it's very highly unconventional. It was considered, very uncouth prima donna ish behavior, and it pissed a lot of people off. You do see a little bit of this today. There are parallels, right? For example, Shohei Ohtani made a similar proclamation, maybe a little less controversial because he just said to every NPB team, "Don't draft me. I want to go to the majors." But Shohei Ohtani did the same kind of thing where he said, "Don't draft me. I don't want to play for you." But then, so back, rewinding to Arakawa, much like the Fighters did with Shohei Ohtani, where they drafted him anyway, the Taiyo Whales drafted Arakawa, just looking to secure his rights and the ability to negotiate with him, even though he said he was not going to play for any team but the Giants. So the Whales drafted him and got his rights. Arakawa was pretty steadfast. He was holding his line about, "I'm not sorry, guys. I'm not going to play for you. It's like I said." So the negotiations stalled. Basically, what happened was one day, Arakawa was jumped near his home. He was jumped in the street near his home, and the assailant was never identified and never caught. And it's thought that the motivation for this attack, this random assault, was a disgruntled fan, probably, who was angry at Arakawa for his, sort of perceived prima donna-ish behavior. "I won't play for any team except the Giants." And that's what probably happened. That was probably the motivation for the assault. So anyway, after that, at some point, Arakawa actually did end up signing with the Taiyo Whales. And the Taiyo Whales basically immediately flipped him. They flipped him to the Swallows. So Arakawa was started with the Swallows, and his first couple years there, he definitely showed some promise. I think his second year as a pro, he played about 83 games, had, I think, 18 home runs, hit, I want to say 280 something, 840 OPS. So showed some pretty good promise, backing up sort of the hype that he had out of college, and the controversy and stuff like that. His dad, Hiroshi Arakawa, actually joined him on the Swallows, so he jumped from the Giants to the Swallows at some point to be with his son, and was a coach and then the manager. That was starting in '73. So the Arakawas were together, and this card, a '74, actually makes reference to the father and son tandem on the team. Unfortunately, for Takashi, his pro career unraveled pretty quickly after, I want to say, that '72 season. I think it was '72 that his best season, where that I said, where he played 83 games, hit 18 home runs and stuff. It pretty much fell apart after that. Takashi was actually found himself out of pro baseball after 1975. He only played 5 seasons in NPB, and the last 2 or 3 seasons he only played in a couple few games. So what happened was, the main problem was that Takashi had some nagging vision issues, and it was getting harder and harder for him to see the ball. And these nagging vision issues, it's said that they were probably exacerbated by the assault that he suffered at the hands of that presumably disgruntled fan, or disgruntled baseball fan of, some other team or something like that. So yeah, pretty crabby. Like I said, it's a sad story, but it is interesting, the whole saga, how this guy and his adoptive father was the man who basically made Sadaharu, and he showed a lot of promise. I know that Arakawa here, I think he went on to do some other stuff. I don't remember exactly what, maybe commentator, or he did some businesses or things like that. So, I mean, he didn't, completely go off into obscurity or whatever, but of course, his career will always be a big what if, right? So, anyway, that's what I've got for you guys today. As always, thanks for watching. Peace.